The storm rolled in without warning, crawling over the hills like a living thing, low and growling. A steady wind pressed against the windows, hissing through the cracks in the old wooden frames of the cottage. Rain tapped at the glass like impatient fingers, and distant thunder began to rumble, low and ominous. David Weaver sat alone in the living room, a lukewarm cup of coffee in his hand, forgotten long ago. The television was on, but he wasn't watching. The sound was muted, casting shifting shapes and shadows across the room that danced with each flicker of the screen. He was staring at the window instead, watching the sky change with every flash. The house was old, inherited from his uncle who had passed the previous winter. David had come here to escape the city, to write, to be alone with his thoughts. A perfect place to clear his head, they said. The town nearby was small and quiet, with more gravestones than living residents. Just the way he liked it, until the sky began to bleed electricity. The first bolt came without sound, just a flash that turned the night into a blinding white. David blinked, momentarily stunned by the intensity. The afterimage burned behind his eyes for a second longer than it should have. Something had looked strange. He leaned closer to the window, nose almost touching the cold glass. Thunder crashed a few seconds later, a heavy sound that shook the house. The storm was closer than he thought. Rain intensified, hammering the roof in waves. David set his coffee down and stood, stretching stiff muscles from too many hours hunched over his laptop. The manuscript wasn't going anywhere. Writer's block had seized him for weeks now, and this storm wasn't helping. He moved to the front of the cottage and looked out through the larger window that overlooked the gravel driveway. His car sat there, slick and black with rain. The trees that ringed the property swayed with the wind, their bare branches clawing at the night sky. Another flash. For a split second, the world turned white again, and in that second, David saw something he couldn't explain. In the middle of the yard, just beyond the reach of the porch light, was a face. It hovered just above the ground, pale and colorless, distorted by the rain, but unmistakably human. The features were frozen, eyes wide and staring, mouth slack. It was gone the instant the darkness returned, as if the lightning had etched it into the air for a fraction of time. David stepped back from the window. He waited. Thunder growled again, longer this time. The house shuddered. He looked again. Nothing. Just the empty yard rippling with rainfall. He laughed, but the sound felt forced and too loud in the quiet room. Just a trick of the light, he told himself. Shapes in the rain. His mind playing games. It wasn't like he hadn't been seeing things lately. Hours spent staring at blank pages had a way of twisting the senses. He returned to the couch, picked up his coffee, and took a sip. Cold, bitter. He didn't care. He kept his eyes on the window. The storm didn't stop. If anything, it grew angrier. Bolts of lightning flashed every few minutes, turning the landscape into stark, skeletal shapes. The trees looked like gnarled hands. The stones that marked the edge of the property cast strange shadows. Another flash, another face. Closer, it wasn't the yard this time. It was at the edge of the trees, just where the forest began. The same face, blank and pale, the same empty eyes. David froze. His coffee slipped from his hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. The thunder came like an explosion. He staggered back, heartbeat thunderous in his ears. His mind reeled, struggling to make sense of what he had seen. Was it real? Was someone out there? He rushed to the door and threw the deadbolt. Locked, secure. Then he turned on the porch light, hoping to see if someone, or something, was really standing out there. But when the yellow bulb flickered on, it showed nothing but a curtain of rain. No one was there. The face had been a trick. It had to be. The lightning was playing with his eyes. It was late. He hadn't slept in nearly 2 days. The manuscript deadline was pressing, and his mind was unraveling from the pressure. He told himself all of this as he backed away from the door. But he didn't turn the porch light off. He left it on, casting a warm circle on the wet ground outside, a small comfort against the growing dark. David returned to the couch, ignoring the shards of ceramic on the floor, ignoring the cold coffee now seeping into the rug. He pulled a blanket over his shoulders and tried to focus on the television, though the screen just showed static now. He must have lost the signal. The next flash of lightning came quicker than the others. David flinched, and there it was again. The face, closer, now at the porch steps. No body, just the face, like a disembodied mask floating in the air, staring directly into the house. The eyes were wrong, deep black pits that pulled at the edges of David's vision, like they were eating the light around them. The mouth was open now, not wide, just slightly ajar, as if trying to speak a word it had long forgotten. David didn't move. He didn't breathe. He waited for the thunder. When it came, it rattled the windows and shook the floorboards. The lights in the house flickered. The porch light went out. Darkness returned, thick and absolute. David stood, every nerve in his body lit with fear. He told himself it wasn't real. It couldn't be. But he was no longer sure. He moved through the house, turning on every lamp he could find. A warm glow filled the rooms, chasing away the shadows, but it didn't calm him. He felt watched. Every creak of the house sounded like a footstep. Every gust of wind sounded like a whisper. He went to the kitchen and retrieved a flashlight from the drawer. It worked. He kept it in his hand as he returned to the living room. Then he waited. The lightning came again. Another burst of blinding white. This time, David didn't need to look outside. He already knew. The face would be closer, and it was. Right outside the window now, so close he could see the cracks in its pale skin. Like porcelain left too long in the sun, so close he could see the twitch in its lip, the way the eyes no longer stared through him, but into him. David screamed. He stumbled back, knocking over a lamp. Glass shattered. The room went dark again. He turned on the flashlight, the beam slicing through the gloom. It danced over the window, but there was nothing there now. Just rain and blackness. He didn't approach. He didn't want to see it again. He wanted to run, to hide, to call someone, anyone, but there was no cell service here, no landline. He was alone. The next bolt of lightning came faster than the others, tearing across the sky like the earth was being split open. David waited. No thunder followed this time, just silence. He knew it had moved again, and now it was somewhere inside. David couldn't move. The silence following the last lightning strike pressed in on him like a weight. He clutched the flashlight tighter, its narrow beam trembling with the small shakes in his hand. Somewhere in the house, the storm raged beyond the walls, but inside it was as if time had paused. There was only the sound of his shallow breathing and the rhythmic ticking of a wall clock in the kitchen. He pointed the light at the window again. Nothing. The pale face was gone, but the terror it left behind, remained. He turned slowly, scanning the room with the beam, half expecting the face to appear right behind him. The shadows stretched and contorted in the corners. Every coat rack, every chair, every curtain seemed suddenly unfamiliar and wrong. His heart pounded so hard it ached in his chest. He forced himself to take a step. The wood creaked beneath his foot. Another step. He wanted to believe it was his imagination, his exhaustion manifesting into hallucinations. The human brain could do strange things under stress. But the face, each time it had appeared, had been too vivid, too real. It had been closer, always closer, and now it was inside. He swept the flashlight across the room again and slowly moved toward the hallway. The old house groaned around him as the wind battered the walls. A gust slipped in through the crack under the front door, sending a chill down the hallway like icy breath. He paused in the doorway, shining the light toward the end of the corridor. The door to his bedroom was closed, so was the guest room across the hall. The attic hatch overhead was shut. He considered calling out, but the thought of hearing something respond, something he didn't want to hear, made his throat close up. Instead, he crept forward, one slow step at a time. He pushed open the door to the guest room first. Empty. Just the same antique bed, the wardrobe, and a single window that rattled in its frame. He closed the door again and turned to his own room. He hesitated. If it was anywhere, it would be in there. He twisted the knob and pushed the door open slowly, raising the flashlight. The room appeared untouched, bed unmade, papers still scattered on the desk by the window, the chair turned at an odd angle from when he last left it. No movement, no face, but the air felt wrong, thick, stale, like the room had been sealed for years. He backed away and closed the door again. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe it wasn't inside, or maybe it was just hiding. He needed to get out. That thought burst through the haze of fear like a spark. Get to the car, drive until the storm passed, call for help. He hurried back down the hallway and made for the coat rack by the front door. He threw on his jacket, grabbed the keys from the hook, and turned the bolt. The wind tore the door open and rain lashed at him like needles. Lightning split the sky again, and for a moment he saw the yard in perfect detail. The face was no longer alone. They were everywhere, dozens of them, floating in the air, some low to the ground, some near the treetops, their pale features illuminated in the stark white light. All staring directly at the house, all of them expressionless, mouths slightly open, eyes black and endless. David screamed and slammed the door shut, the wood trembling in his hands. He locked it, chained it, braced a chair beneath the handle. His breath came in ragged gasps. They were real. He sank to the floor, gripping the flashlight like a weapon. His back pressed against the door as though his weight alone could keep the things outside. Another flash of lightning. He didn't look. He didn't want to see how close they had come now. The thunder never came. The storm had stopped making noise. He didn't know how long he sat there, but eventually the flashlight began to flicker. He shook it. It went out. Darkness swallowed the room. He scrambled to his feet and stumbled toward the kitchen, where he kept candles in the drawer. His fingers fumbled through it, knocking aside old matches and utensils, till he found a candle stub and a box of matches. He struck one. Light bloomed in the dark. He lit the candle and placed it on the counter. Its small, warm glow barely touched the edges of the room, but it was enough. He tried the back door, still locked, still bolted. The windows were covered in condensation, the glass foggy and cold. He wiped one clean with his sleeve and peered outside. No faces, just dark trees and the sway of the wind. He moved to the living room, lighting another candle from the first. Then another. Soon he had small flickers of flame in nearly every room. The house took on a new shape in candlelight. Shadows danced wildly, walls seemed to bend, and the floor creaked as if shifting under his feet. Still, it was better than the total black. He stayed awake. He dared not sleep. The hours stretched. Lightning flashed again. He didn't want to look, but he did. Just a glance, and he saw it. One face pressed to the glass of the living room window, just inches away. Its mouth was open wider now. It was screaming, but there was no sound. David fell backward, knocking a candle from the table. It rolled, flame flickering wildly before sputtering out. He scrambled up and ran to the window, but the face was gone. He staggered back, panting, eyes darting. They were toying with him. He could feel it. Each lightning flash brought them closer. They were moving with the storm, tethered to it somehow, bound by the strikes. He didn't know why, didn't care. He needed to leave. He went to the basement door. The generator was down there. Maybe if he could get the power back, he could reset the phone router, make a call. He opened the door and descended slowly, candle held in front of him. The basement was colder than the rest of the house, and the air was damp with mildew. Shadows clung to the stone walls. The generator sat in the far corner, red and silent. He checked the fuel, still full. He flipped the switch. Nothing. He tried again. Still nothing. And then he saw it. In the far wall, where the shadows were deepest, another face hovered. Not like the others. This one was different, longer, more distorted. It was smiling. The smile didn't reach the eyes. David turned and fled. Nearly dropping the candle, he bounded up the stairs, slammed the basement door shut, and bolted it. His heart thundered. He returned to the living room shaking. Lightning came again. He didn't have to look. He felt it. Something was inside. He turned slowly, and there, at the end of the hallway, was the face. No longer floating, no longer outside. It was attached to a figure now, tall, thin, and impossibly still. The face was unchanged, pale, eyes black, mouth open. It just stood there, unmoving. David's legs refused to work. His mind screamed at him to run, but his body wouldn't respond. He was frozen, staring into those hollow eyes. The lights flickered, not the candles, the lights. Electric light. It was back. The house buzzed with sudden life. But the figure didn't vanish. It stepped forward. David stumbled back, grabbed the nearest candle, and hurled it. It passed through the figure. No impact, no reaction. He ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife from the drawer, and backed into a corner. He waited. The figure did not follow, but the face. It was everywhere now. Every flash of lightning revealed more. In the corners of rooms, reflected in the mirrors, under the furniture, staring from behind doors that should have been locked. And always, always closer. David ran to the bedroom and locked himself inside. He placed the knife on the nightstand and turned on every lamp. He sat in the corner, knees drawn to his chest, eyes fixed on the door. And then the final flash came. No warning, no thunder, just pure, blinding white. And when the light faded, someone was standing in the room. David couldn't scream. His throat tightened, lungs frozen in his chest, the air inside them stale and unmoving. His mind clawed for reason, for an escape, for anything that might make this unreal moment end. the figure standing in his bedroom was real. Not a trick of the lightning, not a reflection, not a ghost fading into the corners. It stood just feet from him, silent, still, watching. The face was unchanged, too pale, too smooth, skin like wax stretched too tightly across bone. Those empty eyes stared with no emotion, no light, no life. They were deep voids, drawing in the world around them, swallowing the color, the warmth, the sanity. Its body was long, wrong, as if something had mimicked the shape of a man but hadn't gotten it quite right. The limbs were too long, the neck just a little too stiff. Its hands hung low, fingers brushing against its knees. Stillness clung to it like a second skin. David didn't blink. He couldn't afford to. The light flickered once, just slightly, and the figure twitched. Not a step, not a movement of limbs, a flicker. Like a frame skipping in a film, it was closer, 2 feet closer. David backed against the wall, breath shaking. He searched the nightstand with one hand, fingers brushing the cold metal of the knife. He grabbed it and held it in front of him, though it felt useless against the thing. Another flicker. Closer. David lunged, swinging wildly. The blade passed through the figure like air, meeting no resistance. But it reacted. The face split. It did not move with muscle or tension. It tore. The mouth stretched wider, further, impossibly open until the jaw cracked and bent, revealing nothing but dark inside. Not teeth, not throat, just darkness. A shriek burst from it, but David couldn't hear it with his ears. It bypassed sound and drilled directly into his brain, a psychic screech that made his vision blur and his knees buckle. He dropped the knife, hands clutched his skull, his thoughts unraveled. The light overhead buzzed, flickered, popped. Darkness fell. He scrambled away blindly, heart slamming like a drumbeat. He crawled behind the bed, knocking over furniture, candles, whatever he could reach to put something, anything, between himself and it. But he knew it wouldn't help. Another flash of lightning lit the room for just an instant. It was inches from his face, and then it was gone. David sat in the dark for what felt like hours. No movement, no sound, no light, just the whisper of wind outside and the distant rumble of the storm moving away. He dared not move, dared not breathe, and slowly his senses began to return. The fear dulled, not gone, but manageable. He stood, legs trembling, and searched for light. His phone, the candles, anything. The phone was dead. He found a single match and a candle still intact. Light returned soft and warm. Familiar? The room was empty. No sign of the figure, no face. It was over, or so he told himself. David left the room slowly, candle in hand, and moved through the house. The storm had passed. The rain, now a gentle mist. The air no longer vibrated with electricity. He opened the front door, stepped outside. The night was calm. The trees stood still. The faces were gone. He laughed. It came out as a choked sob. He walked out into the yard, past the spot where he'd first seen the face, past the trees, down the gravel path toward the car. It sat under a layer of rain and leaves, but intact. He climbed in, tried the key. It started. The engine purred. Relief burst through him in a wave so overwhelming it made him dizzy. He backed out of the driveway and drove. Fast, faster than he ever had, the tires slipping slightly on the wet road. He didn't stop until the town lights came into view. He found the sheriff's office, stumbled inside, incoherent. They called a doctor. They listened. They searched the house. No sign of anyone else. No footprints. No damage. no faces. David didn't go back. He sold the property, moved to the city, high-rise buildings, bright lights, people on every corner. The darkness felt far away. The memory never left him, but time dulled the edge of it. He started sleeping again. He started writing again. He even managed to laugh occasionally. But then the lightning came. A month later, another storm. He was walking home, caught in the downpour. The sky lit up, and in the reflection of a car window beside him, he saw the face just for a moment, watching, still smiling. He ran. He didn't go outside during storms anymore. He changed jobs, changed cities. But the face followed, always in the lightning, in windows, in mirrors, in puddles. Never for more than a blink, but always there, always closer. He started to lose time. He'd wake up with no memory of the night before, lights on, doors unlocked, water on the floor. Once he found a candle still burning, and then he found the drawings, not his. Dozens of faces, sketched in the margins of notebooks, on scraps of paper, on the walls, all the same. That same pale face, those dark, empty eyes, that open mouth. He started recording himself sleeping, just to know. The footage was always normal until the lightning came, and during one flash, the frame skipped, and someone stood over the bed, watching. David tried to show someone, the police, friends, doctors. No one believed him. No one saw what he saw. They called it trauma, stress, hallucination. He stopped showing them. He started preparing, salted the windows, lit candles every night, avoided reflections. He stopped using mirrors entirely. But it didn't matter, because every time it stormed, the face came back. Each time, a little closer, and then one night, the lightning came, and there was no face, no flicker in the glass, no watching eyes, only silence. David waited, but nothing happened. The storm passed. He thought maybe it was over, maybe he had outrun it. He even started to hope again. He opened the blinds, let in the light. He stopped sleeping with the knife under his pillow until the next morning. He woke up not from a dream, but from a scream, his own. He sat up, chest heaving. The room was cold, wrong, and written on the walls in what looked like soot or ash or something darker were 3 words. Words that hadn't been there the night before. Words that twisted his stomach into knots. "You let me in." He moved out that day. He didn't pack, didn't lock the door. He left everything behind. He lived on the road, motels, buses, crowds. He never stayed anywhere long enough to unpack. He avoided mirrors, never looked directly at windows, never walked in the rain. But it didn't matter. The face followed. It was in every bolt of lightning, in every flickering light bulb, in every frame of video he tried to watch. And each time, it was closer. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating. He was wasting away. And then he stopped running, because he knew one day there'd be no more places to go, no more shelters to hide beneath, no more strangers to stand beside and feel safe. And one night, when the wind howled low and the sky bloomed white with storm, the lightning came, and he saw the face, not outside, not in the reflection, but staring back from his own eyes. And the last thing he felt was a smile, not his, a smile stretching wide. And then he opened his mouth, and the darkness came in.